In the Business Edge today, Fritz Golman has some tips on how to get an edge while working away from the office.
Joining us today is Scott Dettman, and he's the CEO of a firm called Avenica. Now, what exactly is Avenica?
Sure. Avenica is an education to work platform. Essentially, we are bridging the gap between education and work.
Well, talking about work, so you might have a lot of experience with people in this day and age working remotely. So first of all, why don't you define that for me a little bit?
Sure. So working remotely just means that either some or all of the time you're not going into a brick and mortar office. So that can be coffee shops, home offices, what have you, but it just means you're not going to that one physical location.
Now, you said that there was a study recently released, so give us the details on that.
Absolutely. So the International Workplace Group did a recent study. They surveyed 18,000 business professionals spanning 96 international companies. And in that study, they found that about 70% of workers work remotely at least part of the time.
Now, these workers, the 70%, which is a huge number, obviously, what would you say the satisfaction is for that? I mean, one would think that it's better, but maybe fill us in.
Yeah, I think it's shifted a little bit. I think initially this was thought of as the world's biggest perk. It was so great, but I think one of the things that's happened over time is people have realized that this often does lead to burnout or a degree of isolation. So that's one of the things that employers really need to be careful of.
Now, thinking about the other side of the equation, the supervisor, the employer, how has the take-up been there? What's been the feeling on the employer side?
On the employer side, I think there's an avenue for cost savings, certainly, especially if you're in an organization that is looking to trim costs or to tap into talent pools that maybe aren't in your local market. Cost of acquisition of talent is really high, so using that as a lever. But I think really the key there is measuring what matters and identifying the things in the ways in which you can track employees' productivity, whether they're in the office or not.
Now, do you have a couple of tips for both employees or employers to make the most of that working remote experience?
Sure. So on the employee side, routine is really important. So making sure that you're getting up at the same time, getting yourself ready as if though you're going into the office, and making sure that you're establishing a regular connection point with your supervisors, with your team. That relationship and that trust building is really, really important. On the employer side, I think it's the same, just the sort of the other side of the coin. Really making sure that you're staying connected to those employees, that you're communicating your expectations, and that you're measuring them and maintaining a degree of connection.
Well, working remotely is certainly the growing field. So once again, Scott, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
For more Business First AM, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And go to businessfirstam.com for where to see our show on TV.